What's up, everybody? Time for another HorrorViews movie review. It's Michael here with my buddy Kenneth. So Kenneth and I are big fans of the found footage movies, and we've been getting a lot more into them, looking for new ones that are really good, well done movies that we've never heard of before, and one that pops up a lot on the list is the movie
The Tunnel.
So The Tunnel is an Australian movie originally called The Tunnel. They renamed it for the American release The Tunnel Movie or something like that. So it's called The Tunnel Movie, but it's originally called The Tunnel.
So as an Australian movie, it has a lot of Australian actors, none of which I'm pretty sure most of you have ever heard of. So we're going to go ahead and link it, put the names up in the descriptions box.
Put names in the description. I don't even know how to say some of them, even though they're not that difficult, and no one knows who they are. So anyway.
You try and being on camera and say names like that.
So the Australian found footage movie The Tunnel is unlike a lot of other found footage movies. It starts out with some government involvement to set up the plot. The Australian government is looking for a way to solve their water issues, so they look into tapping into some underground reservoirs.
Thing is, over the years, those underground reservoirs have been retrofitted a number of times to be underground railroads and underground air raid shelters.
And these air raid shelters and underground railroads all were directly underneath Sydney, Australia. So in the mainstream streets and the railroads up on above, there's like big tunnels underneath.
So basically, when this project, they announce the project and then it goes quiet. So this journalist, one of the main characters, being a journalist, she gets curious about this and she decides to look into it, thus leading them into The Tunnel.
So we follow our four main characters, a cameraman and a sound expert.
And two journalists.
They basically get curious about the cover-up of the water reservoir, or why everything just went quiet. The government decides to just stop doing it. They don't say anything about it. The project goes dead. So the main characters get curious and
they start looking into their various contacts. Being journalists, they know people around town. So they start talking to people and little weird rumors keep popping up here and there.
And they decide to delve deeper and actually go down into the tunnels, so they start making a documentary about them going into the tunnels. Because as with every horror movie, bad stuff happens. So as with every found footage movie, there's a lot of twists and turns and a lot of plot development that happens, you know, first person. I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm not going to say too much more about the plot. So the problem with the found footage genre is you see a lot of rehashed, redone, rethought out scenes, the same plots. It's all basically a found footage movie where they carry along the cameras and it's just, you know, found footage pieced together.
But what this one did differently was the opening was surprisingly crisp. Like, when I saw it, it did not look like Australian movie. Not to bag on Australian movies, I've seen some good ones. But this one felt more like Hollywood, like crisp, you know? Like, the way that they set it up is sort of like a 60 Minutes documentary with, you know, little interviews here and there, that kind of thing.
Which is very unique. You don't find, I've never seen a found footage movie like this before. They set it up with, like, it looks like you're watching a TV interview. Very crisp, very clean, well done. They've got interviews with people. The dialogue is obviously written, thought out, you know.
See, one of the things that I did like, though, was unlike a lot of found footage movies where they do things just in a continuous flow, this one with the 60 Minutes documentary version actually allowed them, storyline-wise, to go through and look at different camera angles that may have caught things that they didn't see originally when they were actually there.
So the way this movie is filmed is very well done, and the fact that they do it like a 60 Minutes documentary, you get to hear their side of the story, or different people's side of the story, as you get to see footage. The footage is later on towards the end of the movie, but it opens up with them basically talking about their thought process and why they're doing this, what's going on with the government, what's, you know, going on with the people that they interview and things like that. So this movie reminded me a lot of Grave Encounters in the beginning, the way it's a sort of, you know, they interview people and the way the story kind of develops, but it's not nearly as good as Grave Encounters. Grave Encounters is an awesome movie. If you have not seen Grave Encounters, go check that out.
I actually put Grave Encounters at the top of my found footage list. Like, great movie. This movie, on the other hand, definitely not near the top, but not bad. I've definitely seen a lot worse.
Yeah, going into this movie, as soon as you look on the cover, it looks really low budget. And I definitely didn't have huge expectations for it. But as we said before, we keep hearing good things about it. So it was still, we were hoping for a really good movie, but we didn't need it to be good. Overall, the movie was very well done. However, it was not super scary, in my opinion. It was tense and suspenseful, but it wasn't really scary. And it wasn't really, you know, wasn't like anything really, really new or really cool. The scenery was awesome. The tunnels were cool. I wish they would have gone a little more into the tunnels. That's one thing I really didn't like about it, is like the tunnels didn't seem like they were as immense in filming as they said that they were. They should have done a little more making them look bigger. So not that they did a bad job with the tunnels. The tunnels look really cool. They did a good job with the setting up the, you know, set of the movie basically, but I think that they would have done a lot better if they just would have made the tunnels look, you know, through camera work and cutting away, like they were way bigger. Kind of like in The Descent, where it wasn't that long. They weren't like huge tunnels, but they made them seem like they went on forever. They did a great job with the set of The Descent. And this kind of reminds me of that a little bit, how they get lost and they kind of retrace their steps, but they could have done a lot better job with that.
One of the things that this movie did right for me personally was it believed in the less is more theory. A lot of horror films don't seem to do that anymore, but this one did, and I appreciated it for it.
I like the less is more. And this movie does do that, but it does it in a way, it's like a combination of different genres. For me, anyway, it's a combination of different genres that they all kind of, they go into this area and they go into this area, but they don't go full force into either area. They kind of dip their hands in both, and it comes out as kind of a mishmash kind of feeling movie. It doesn't quite get into each of its spots. So I think a sequel for this movie would be really cool if they would elaborate more into one area of the movie and develop more story for that one part. Pick a spot, pick a storyline, and kind of focus on that.
Yeah, I agree that there are certain areas in this movie that could use some fleshing out. And I think the lack of fleshing out in this movie actually screams sequel, so I agree.
So after this, we're going to get into some spoilers, but I want to talk about the ending real quick. The ending was very disappointing for me because the ending kind of focused on, it's like the whole movie was kind of forgotten at the end. There was like, well, we would have done something different. They focus on like a minute of the very end of the movie, and they just kind of rethink that ending. They kind of forget about everything they went through this whole journey, and they just kind of talk about that one little thing, and it's like, what you just went through this big thing, and you're just gonna forget about it? It was a little weak.
Yeah, see, I give the actors a lot of credit. They played really realistic characters. The way they interacted, they joked, etc. Very realistic, in my opinion. Until you hit the end, when they just sort of lost part of the storyline. I don't know.
If they it feels almost like they shot the ending. They're just like, oh crap, we got to put a cap on this, and they're just kind of like, oh.
Maybe there was a lack of oxygen in the tunnel, and they got amnesia really fast.
That's what it felt like. They just forgot about the movie and put an ending on it. So the ending was weak, but like I said, screams possible sequel, and it would be cool to see a sequel.
Now, for this movie's credit, for me, there was definitely some edge of your seat moments. I enjoyed it.
And there was good acting. It was a very well done movie. Just nothing amazing. It was well done. It was a good movie. It just wasn't great. So now we're going to talk about some spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, it's just a few spoilers that, you know, we're going to throw in there. Things that happen throughout the movie that we would prefer not to tell people who haven't seen it. Hopefully by now you have seen this movie, or you just don't care about spoilers, and you're gonna watch anyway, so nothing we can really do about that. The one thing that I really loved about this movie is what they did with the creature. Now, the creature looked awesome. The less is more rule definitely applied,
yeah.
And it looked really cool. You couldn't figure out what the hell it was, if it was a ghost, if it was like some sort of a monster.
Demon, who knows?
I don't know, which was a plus, but also a flaw, because I was kind of like, it looks so cool, and I don't want you to like delve into a big backstory, but I'd like to know a little more about what the hell it's doing.
I agree. See, now one of the things, now that we're into the spoilers and he's actually revealed that it's a creature movie, one of the things, as he pointed out, is it does less is more. There's a number of points with this creature where you are just like, what the flip-flop? Like, you just can't quite tell what's going on with this thing. The way that it moves, completely unnatural. The way that it looks, just like, it brings to mind a number of things, all of which are creepy.
Which is awesome, so awesome, but that's exactly why this movie doesn't quite grasp me is because it's so cool, and then it's like kind of forgotten about. It's not a monster movie, but it's also not all the way to a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Closed off, claustrophobic tunnel movie. It doesn't go all the way there, and it doesn't go all the way to monster movie. It kind of dips into both worlds.
Now here's what we were talking about the ending though, right? Is you have this weird creature doing bad stuff to like frickin' everybody, right? They get out of the tunnel, forget about it. They're like, oh, what happened here?
Unlike a lot of other horror movies where you find the footage, they actually survive. They survive this movie. And then when they get out, they're like, they forget about the other two people that died in the tunnel. They focus on the one guy who died at the end after they got out of the tunnel. They're like, well, if I had just known he was dying, I would have done more.
Never mind the fact that some crazy creature thing totally killed him. This guy died. That's what I'm concerned about.
And he's died right there, and I would have done more if I would have known he was dying. And I feel like it's kind of my fault. It's like, what about the whole like hour and a half, whatever, of people in the tunnel dying and all these people disappearing? And what about the creature that, I don't know, eats people or pulls out their eyes? What about that? You're just gonna forget about that? So
see, the cool thing is though, is the creature seems to not like light. So as soon as I got out of there, I would be getting myself a flashlight suit, and I'd be going back for round 2.
Yeah, and they just, I don't know, the ending was weak. But, overall, the movie was cool. So, I give it props for that. They did a very good job with it. It looks pretty. The set was cool. The actors did a great job. Creature looked awesome.
Definitely not the actor's fault about the ending.
No. It was a poorly written. I think that's the biggest part of this movie. That's the biggest problem, is the script was all over the place. Too many different writers. And I think that really, but then they did a good enough job to make it work. And if you've seen the movie, tell us what you think. Why did you like it? How does it compare to other found footage movies that you've seen? What would you rate it on the list? What's better? What's worse? Tell us what you thought about it.
So thanks for watching, guys. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you later.